안녕하세요. 유니버스J입니다. 오늘 제가 읽어드릴 책은 어린 왕자 영문판입니다. Chapter 1. When I was 6 years old, I saw a magnificent image in a book called True Stories, a book about the virgin forest. It depicted a boa constrictor that was devouring a wild animal whole. Here is a copy of the picture. It said in the book, boa constrictors swallow their prey, bones and all, without chewing it. Afterward, they cannot move, so they sleep for 6 whole months while they digest. Then I pondered a great deal over adventures in the jungle. After some practice with a colored pencil, I succeeded in drawing my first picture. My picture number 1. It looked like this. I showed my masterpiece to the grown-ups, and then I asked them if my picture frightened them. They answered me, "Why on earth would a hat be frightening?" My picture did not represent a hat. It showed a boa constrictor that had swallowed an elephant. After that, I drew the inside of the snake in order that the grown-ups could understand it. They always have to have things explained to them. This is my picture number 2. Then the grown-ups advised me to put aside my pictures of boa constrictors, either their insides or their outsides, and instead to be interested in geography, history, mathematics, and grammar. This is how I, at the age of 6, gave up the wonderful career of drawing. I was discouraged from the failures of my picture number 1 and picture number 2. Grown-ups never understand anything on their own, and it is tiresome for children to have to explain things to them all the time. Therefore, I had to choose a different job, and I learned how to pilot airplanes. I have flown everywhere in the world, and indeed, geography has helped me a great deal. I can tell at first sight China from Arizona. Geography is quite useful if you get lost during the night. In this way, I have had much contact with my serious people in the course of my life. I have had much experience with grown-ups. I have watched them very closely, but it has not much improved on my opinion of them. Whenever I encounter grown-ups who seem brilliant to me, I did the experiment of making them take a look at my picture number 1, which I always carry with me. I wanted to know if they truly understood it. But they answered me back, "It's a hat." So I never told them about boa constrictors, or virgin forests, or stars. I stooped to their level. I talked to them about bridge, golf, politics, and ties. And they became very pleased to know such a sensible man. Chapter 2. So I lived alone, without anyone to really talk with, until my airplane broke down in Sahara Desert 6 years ago. Something inside the engine was broken. Since I had no mechanic or passenger with me, I readied myself to try to carry out the difficult repair work all by myself. For me, it was a matter of life and death. I scarcely had enough water to drink for a week. On the first night, I slept on the sand, 1,000 miles away from a place where anyone lived. I was more isolated than the survivor of a shipwreck on a raft drifting in the middle of the ocean. Thus, you can imagine how very surprised I was when, at the break of day, an odd and small voice woke me. The voice said, "Please, draw me a sheep." "Pardon me? Draw me a sheep." I jumped to my feet as if I had been struck by lightning. I rubbed my eyes hard. I looked about intently. Then I saw a small but absolutely extraordinary boy who looked at me very seriously. This is the best portrait of him that I, much later, succeeded in drawing. However, my picture is certainly much less delightful than the actual model. It is not my fault. I was discouraged by grown-ups from taking on the career of drawing at the age of 6, and I learned nothing about drawing except for the insides and outsides of boa constrictors. So I was surprised, and I stared at the fellow with wide eyes. Don't forget that I was 1,000 miles away from where anyone lived, but it did not seem to me that the little boy was either lost or dying of fatigue, hunger, thirst, or fear. He never looked like a child who had strayed into the middle of the desert, 1,000 miles away from any villages. When I was finally able to speak, I asked him, "But what on earth are you doing here?" Then he said to me very gently, as if he were asking a very serious thing, "Please, draw me a sheep." When a mystery is too powerful, we do not dare to disobey it. However, after it seemed to me, far, far away from any villages, and even in danger of death, I took out a sheet of paper and a fountain pen from my pocket. Then I remembered how I had come to study geography, history, mathematics, and grammar, and I told the little fellow in a slightly irritated tone that I did not know how to draw. He replied to me, "It does not matter. Draw me a sheep." Now, since I had never drawn a sheep, I drew once again one of the only 2 pictures that I was capable of drawing, the picture of the boa constrictor from the outside, and I was stunned when the little boy responded, "No, no, I do not want an elephant inside of a boa constrictor. A snake is too dangerous and an elephant is too cumbersome. On my planet, everything is very small. I need a ship. Draw me a ship." Then I drew again. He watched intently, and then he said, "No, that ship is already too sickly. Draw me another ship." I made another drawing. My friend smiled kindly and indulgently. "As you yourself can well see, this is not the ship, it is a ram. It has horns." So I drew a picture again. But he refused it, just like the precious pictures. "It is too old. I want a ship that will live for a long time." Then, running out of patience, because I was in a hurry to start taking apart the engine, I hastily scrawled a drawing and I threw it to him, saying carelessly, "It is a box. The ship that you want is inside." I was much surprised to see that the face of my young judge brightened. "It is absolutely how I would like to see the ship. Do you think that he needs much grass?" "Why?" "Because on my planet everything is quite small. It would certainly be fine. I drew a very small ship." He bent his head over the picture. "He is not that small. Look, he has gone to sleep." And this is the way that I became acquainted with the little prince. Chapter 3. It took me a long time to understand where it came from. The little prince, who threw so many questions at me, never seemed to listen to my questions. From words that were dropped by chance, everything was revealed to me little by little. When he noticed my airplane for the first time, "I will not draw my airplane because it is too complicated for me to do so," he asked me, "What is this thing?" "It is a mere thing. It flies. It is an airplane. It is my airplane." I was proud to let him know that I had flown. Then he exclaimed, "What? You fell from the sky?" "Yes," I said modestly. "Oh, that is funny." Then the little prince roared with laughter, which irritated me quite a bit. I want people to take my misfortune seriously. Then he added, Then you also fell from the sky. What planet are you from? I immediately glimpsed a slight light into the mystery of his appearance, and I abruptly questioned him. Did you come from another planet? However, he made no answer to me. He nodded his head gently, still looking at my airplane. It is true that you cannot have come from far away. And he sank into a reverie that lasted for a long while. Then, taking a picture of his ship out of his pocket, he buried his head in contemplating his treasure. You can imagine how very intrigued I was by this half-confessed secret about the other planets. So I strived to find out more about this. My little friend, where are you from? Where is my planet? Where do you want to take your ship picture? He said to me after a meditative silence. It is good that the box that you have given me will serve as a house for the ship at night. Certainly, if you are nice, I will also draw a rope to tie the ship with during the day and a post. This new offer seemed to shock the little prince. To tie him? What an odd idea that is. But if you do not tie him, the ship will wander everywhere and he will get lost. My friend gave another burst of laughter. But where would he go? Anywhere, wherever his smile might lead. Then the little prince solemnly remarked, It does not matter, because on my planet everything is so small. And with perhaps a hint of sadness, he added, Straight in front of him, he cannot go very far. 들어주셔서 감사합니다. 구독과 좋아요 부탁드려요.